this week's drive, we settle into some Formula One history, watch the return of a famous name, witness a proud revival, and celebrate a centenary. All this and more in this week's history-packed drive. In Formula One, it's all too easy to concentrate on the car, the team, and the next race. Jenson Button is BAR Honda's newest recruit, and he recently took the time to visit Honda's Research and Development Nerve Center in Tochigi in Japan, as well as the company's museum and visitor center. He also met the talented engineers who put the power into his Honda engine. It's not every day that a Grand Prix driver walks through the door, even at Honda. Asimo is one of Honda's non-vehicle R&D projects. The object was to develop a robot which can walk and think for itself, and it's the latest development of a project which started in 1986. The result is a people-friendly sized robot which can perform tasks within a human environment, such as opening doors. He also walks in a smooth fashion which closely resembles that of a human being. Asimo is designed to interact with humans. He can greet people, follow them, move in the direction they indicate, recognize their faces and address them by name, and even perform tasks such as reception duties. Honda plans to rent Asimo to public institutions and companies. He weighs just 42 kilograms and is powered by a 38-volt battery. Asimo is an abbreviation for Advanced Step in Innovative Mobility. Honda welcomes thousands of enthusiasts every year and has built a highly interactive visitor center which shows how things work. Cutaways of entire cars and many transparent displays with realistically moving parts offer an insight into the modern vehicle. Honda also encourages people of all ages to try driving and riding on video simulators. Of course, Honda started out building motorcycles, although it now builds many more cars each year than it does motorbikes. But Jenson's attempt at riding a virtual motorcycle suggests that he's perhaps better off staying in the safe confines of his car. The company may have started with a tiny engine on a bicycle in post-war Japan, but Honda now makes all sorts of vehicles. Jenson's a celebrity all over the world and is used to posing for pictures and signing autographs for fans.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Honda has a proud history of racing on both two wheels and four, and many of Honda's winning machines are on display in the museum. These include brave efforts like the NR500, a V4 built with oval pistons and 8 valves per cylinder, which are now proudly displayed, although once the internals were a tightly kept secret. Like any true enthusiast, Jenson has a deep respect for the historic races which Honda has preserved.
This is the first racing bike in Honda. They compete some power right there.
First race in TTs.
No, before
54. How often it goes down the road, I guess. But that's like 90 miles an hour, that thing would do.
The first vehicle powered by an internal combustion engine was actually a motorcycle, and Honda have a faithful replica of the original. The company spends millions to research new technology such as this experimental fuel-efficient vehicle, which set world records for covering distances on tiny amounts of fuel. Honda also built this solar-powered car, which won races using no fuel at all, just sunshine. Jenson's probably the world's fastest southpaw, left-hander.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Unlike Suzuki, who crushed most of their racing bikes once they'd been replaced, Honda have kept as many examples as they could and maintain as many as possible in perfect working order, like this historic 6-cylinder bike from the 1960s.
That is the most amazing thing I've ever heard.
But a lot closer to the 23-year-old Englishman's heart is the collection of Honda's involvement in Formula One, which goes back to the cars of John Surtees and Richie Ginther.
Which one? That one.
It becomes a Kawamoto.
So these are starting to look bigger now,
14, was
isn't
it?
it?
Yeah.
Being a VIP guest does have its advantages. Few would have had this opportunity.
Could you drive that? No. I couldn't move my arms. That's unbelievable, isn't it? My shoulder's not even in the car. Wow.
Other cars bear famous names like Piquet, Mansell, Prost and Senna, as Honda provided engines to Lotus, Williams, McLaren and Jordan.
That's an awesome car. It's so big, isn't it? They're huge.
Honda have also been involved in American racing and built turbocharged engines too.
Got a boost button on the steering wheel. That must be a nice feeling.
The competition collection is extensive and includes domestic cars like this Mugen touring car.
It's like the old BTCC cars.
The museum is just a few miles from the Motegi Twin Ring circuit, which, like Suzuka, is owned by Honda. Jensen didn't need to be prompted to do a few laps of the track in one of the circuit's S2000 sports cars, taking a few other guests for pony rides. He also did a couple of laps in a Honda NSX-R Super Coupe, which he described as being the best road car he'd ever driven on a track. Next stop was Honda R&D, the inner sanctum of Honda's future and a place where cameras are usually banned. Jensen was simply blown away by the scale of this side of the company. About 10,000 people work here, and much of their work never sees the light of day. It's a place where some of the most inspired engineers work to keep Honda at the cutting edge of vehicle technology. While most of their efforts are aimed at road cars, the racing department is housed here too. Jensen was able to witness the building and testing of engines that would soon be bolted into the back of his BAR, and meet the technicians responsible for painstakingly hand-building the engines, which he hopes will soon power him to victory. The Formula One facility is nearly half a kilometre long and is packed with state-of-the-art design, testing and manufacturing equipment. And remember, Honda only make engines, nothing else. Afterwards, Jensen described it as the most incredible place he'd ever been, and that he now had a better idea of the depth of Honda's commitment to Formula One. Before he left, Button addressed many of the staff directly involved with building his engines, thanking them for their efforts on behalf of the entire BAR team back in England.
To meet everyone.
In return, he was presented with a traditional Japanese happy coat, which he promptly tried on.
Honda is a much bigger company than I actually thought it was. Even when I signed with VA Honda, I thought it was, you know, a large company. But after being to Tochigi and also Motegi, it's a lot larger than I thought it was. There's so many people working on the Formula One project that it's very, very exciting, and they all seem so enthusiastic. Also, they all seem very excited about the coming years, and they won't stop until they reach the World Championship.
In theory, all 10,000 people at the R&D Centre have input into the Formula One programme. If someone working on a humble Civic comes up with something which may be relevant to the racing effort, they're actively encouraged to bring it up. Knowing this, it's easy to understand Jensen's faith that a Grand Prix win for BAR Honda is just a matter of time. The 24-hour race at Le Mans is one of racing's greatest spectacles, and this year saw the end of a 73-year drought with a victory for Bentley, who last won in 1930. The Bentleys had the speed to beat the Audis, and the two green cars covered the first lap in the same positions that they would finish 24 hours later. The number 7 car of Tom Christensen, Rinaldo Capello and Guy Smith led the other Bentley, crewed by ex-Formula One veterans Johnny Herbert, Mark Blundell and David Brabham, from the number 5 Audi of Seiji, Magnussen and Werner. Racing goes into the night and temperatures drop, but crashes caused by fatigue, sudden rain or fog are common. Pit stops are a key part of long-distance racing, but Michelin came up with some special tyres which lasted for 2 or even 3 driver stints. At the first running of the race in 1923, Bentley was the only non-French manufacturer and won in 1924, 27, 28, 29 and 1930, and then retired. In 2001, Bentley returned with a 3-year plan and finished 3rd, then 4th in 2002, before winning this year the 71st running of the race. The victory ends 7 consecutive German wins at Le Mans, the last 3 by Audis. The open-topped Audis had top-class drivers too. The privateer number 6 car was driven by ex-Formula One racers Emanuele Pirro, JJ Leto and Stefan Johansson and came 3rd. The Japanese Audi entry would finish 4th, 7 laps down on the winners and 2 laps behind Pirro, Leto and Johansson. The Audis were 60 horsepower down this year thanks to new regulations. Tom Christensen is now a part of Le Mans history, becoming the first driver to win in 4 consecutive years. With a total of 5 victories, the first in 1997 in only 7 attempts, the Dane joins Derek Bell in the Hall of Fame, 5 victories from 26 starts, and is only 1 victory short of Jackie Ickx's record 6 wins from 15 starts. It was the first Le Mans victory for both Smith and Capella. The annual Outback Challenge is based around Broken Hill, the gateway to the Outback, and this year marks the 5th time it's been run. This special stage is held on the Line of Lode, the fabulously wealthy outcrop of minerals that provides the reason for Broken Hill's existence. The event is a series of tests and challenges over giant sand dunes, rock-strewn gorges, thick mud, deep river crossings and choking dust. The 64 competitors, divided into groups, head off to each of the competition sites. The Danish team of Max and Jakob Skjold tackle the sand in Pinkalli. Wong Kok Phim from Malaysia, with Japanese co-driver Shinichi Yoshimoto, excelled, finishing 13th overall, and found time to help their Danish rivals.
There is a very, very small problem. Nothing serious.
What is it?
It is the flares touching the tires. And we don't mind, but people say we are making too much noise, so we have to repair it.
There were special tasks to be completed, like carrying a swag against the clock, adding to the Outback flavour. John Howarth leads co-driver Peter Reynolds. The organisers gleefully promised 1 week of sheer hell. Refuelling was at the Packsaddle Roadhouse on the Silver City Highway in between the long night navigation stages. And the night competition stages provided their own challenge. At Nanduka, Andrew Worthington and Ray Moran met their match, but were philosophical about the experience.
You guys okay? Okay, you guys all right? Yeah. Just not enough ability and too much enthusiasm, I think.
We're trying to get out of using the bloody winch, that's what it was. Tried to drive up when it wouldn't go.
Chris Nash shows the width of skills and finesse needed by the bush mechanic. He finished 5th. Neil Redpath and Patrick Smart from the UK had to winch up backwards when their front winch failed. The Outback Challenge finds the 4x4 team who can best handle different surfaces and circumstances and test the skills you need to drive and survive in the back of Beyond.
Imagine what you'd have done forward. I reckon we could have done it in 3 seconds.
Roger Smith used a more conventional approach, grinding his trusty old Range Rover to 14th overall. The Outback Challenge is fast becoming a well-known international event as overseas drivers try to get used to the Australian sand, rocks and dust. Competition continued throughout the night. Husband and wife team Kelly and David Hickman really got into the event in the mud at the Veld. David Hickman tries to shoot through but gets trapped by a hole under the mud, under the water. Inevitable, really. Teams have to recover their vehicles and winch through the mud within a set time. The strain on the vehicles and the crew sometimes clouds their thinking.
to turn it off?
No, it doesn't matter. It's still fine. So we'll just keep it plugging away. We're having a ball, mate.
Yeah, we're having a good time. As long as we finish. That's what we want to do. We want to finish. Yeah.
They finished sixth. The French team of Reynard Fauveille and Christian Delastre were 41st in their Toyota. Teams needed to stay on track, on time and on target to succeed. Glenn Biskin and Ben Nichols went on to finish 9th in their patrol. Some of the local wildlife seemed a little confused by all the activity. The production class Nissan of Brent Barnes and Danny Kachiavskis. With the format of the event, the leading contenders were revealed only on the final day. A straight race on the not-so-straight gun barrel sand stage, with Greg McClintock and Eric Marquez, regular visitors from Alaska, leading home Andrew and Joe Cassar.
Stop! Stop! Stop!
England's Richard Ibbotson had trouble getting through to Vicky Hayward, but eventually they made it up the Denian sand wall. In the final placings, Chris Hummer and Neil Cooper were third in their Range Rover. Kim Bolton and Robert Marks were second in their well-engineered Nissan Patrol, just 12 points off the winners.
9:51.09, best time today so far.
Father and son team Mike and Wayne Smith won the very first Outback Challenge in 1999. Driving their trusty Range Rover, they were consistent finishers through all the tasks, across all 6 gruelling days. Official confirmation of their win came at the presentation back at Broken Hill's Line of Load Mining Centre.
The winner of the 2003 ARB Warn Outback Challenge is car 2, Mike Smith.
It's certainly an unusual but highly appropriate trophy. Mike explained what had got them through the event as winners.
Well, I think persistence. We didn't think we were doing anywhere near as well, but we just kept at it. And we didn't score that highly, but we were in there and we tried to avoid DNFing. We had 1 DNF this year, which was unusual for us.
The new Skoda Fabia World Rally car has been tested intensively during 2003, and the team say they have been so encouraged by the pace of the car that it will join the championship in the new German round of the championship in late July. The outgoing model, the Skoda Octavia, will have its final outing on the Cyprus Rally. After 5 years, 48 World Championship rallies and 111 entries of intense competition, it will be replaced by the all-new Fabia.
Of course, I expect with this new car to arrive to fight in the World Championship, in the title for the manufacturer, for the driver. But we know it's not easy because you have a lot of manufacturer and with a lot of experience, but it's why the challenge is very interesting, and I really hope to have the possibility to fight for the victory the soon it's possible with this car, with this new Fabia.
2 cars will be crewed by Didier Auriol with Dennis Giraudet and Tony Gardemeister with Paavo Lukanda. To have a rally car homologated for the World Rally Championship, at least 25,000 production cars of the basic model range and at least 2,500 cars of the model from which the rally car has been derived must be produced. With the Fabia World Rally car, this condition will be met by the production of the Fabia RS. The skeleton of the Fabia World Rally car's monocoque body and its outer parts are from the production car, modified to take wider tyres and to extend the wheel track of both axles. The floor pan has been modified to take the 4-wheel drive system. The large central tunnel contains the drive shaft and a heat-insulated exhaust pipe. Fuel tanks are installed under the car in the same position as in standard cars, but have double the volume, 90 litres. Oriol came 9th in the Acropolis Rally in Greece, and Gardemeister lies 10th overall. Skoda lies 5th out of 6 in the Manufacturers' Championship, and there is hope that the new car will lift them a long way up the results table. And finally, we go to Austria to join just one of hundreds of centenary celebrations for Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Thousands of bikers changed the picturesque Austrian village into Harley Town when the biggest European Harley birthday bash got underway. The iconic and enduring American motorcycle brand turns 100 years old this year, just missing out on being the oldest brand to England's Triumph, which started production in 1902. Celebrations of the centenary will take place all over the world, with the biggest being around the factory in Milwaukee. It's a safe bet that none of the gathered masses cared a bit about anything other than their beloved V-twin motorcycles, which have become more of a lifestyle statement than a means of transport. About 8,000 riders and pillions from all over Europe just kicked back in the sunshine, soaked up the atmosphere and admired each other's machines.
The landscape here is so picturesque in the middle of the mountains. It's much more beautiful than a biker meeting in the countryside. It's one of the most spectacular events I know. Nobody makes trouble, no one is aggressive, although there are thousands of people here.
A massed ride to the nearby village of Zell am See was organised, with about 20,000 visitors to the area turning out to watch the parade. Lovers of the Harley-Davidson can see past the archaic design, persistent oil leaks, questionable brakes and sometimes dodgy electrics, devoted as they are to the spirit of the last great freedom machine. They point out instead that Harleys have the best resale value of any vehicle on earth, better than BMWs, Mercedes-Benz or even Rolls-Royce. In fact, Harleys are often worth more used than they were new, such as the demand for certain models. The parade finally kicked off, leading the riders on a scenic tour of the area, ending in the village where the pedestrian zone was turned into a Harley-only zone. The first Harley-Davidson Biker Mania event in 1997 saw 900 Harleys ready to roam the streets, but this year's turnout included many a dream machine for Harley lovers to examine in detail. Some of the riders had taken on the Wild West theme.
The people on both sides of the street were cheering at us. So wonderful. It's really great here. Just think of all the people here. When you see them all, you get goosebumps. It's unreal.
To some, the sight, sound, and especially the pervading smell of bellowing machines lighting up their rear tyres in smoky donuts is the logical end to a perfect day. But I've often wondered how they get home again. So, whether you like your action sandy, rocky or muddy, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.